Hey everybody, getting another bit of time into my sriyantra sand mandala for abundance, raising energy for abundance in all of our lives, abundance of wonderful things, of happiness, of growth, abundance of positive change, abundance of new learning, abundance of adaptation to new realizations and awareness, therefore awareness, and there's always got to be change as we grow, so abundance of that ability to shift and adjust, and the happiness that can come with it, as opposed to looking on the short side of the stick, where one might just, and we all fall into that, where someone just for a while sees the negative or the hardship. So what I'm saying is the abundance of seeing the good side to everything, which is uplifting. If one sees the bad side of something, the negative side, the struggle, it tends to pull the person down. Not only uncomfortable, low state of mind in the struggle, but I think it helps to kind of direct that person's consciousness into a lower vibration. So I'm saying abundance, this is for also raising abundance of seeing things from the positive side, no matter what the difficulty is, because then that becomes a ladder or a lift to elevate your consciousness, and also to set the sight, or your sight, onto better things. So if we're thinking about the game Snakes and Ladders, it's the abundance of the ladders, and abundance of the conscious, happy state of mind when you do slide down a snake, because sliding down a snake can be a great learning experience. Just some of my thoughts while doing this were that just even in the piece itself, there's times where I have found myself feeling the struggle. Whether it's the struggle of, I don't have enough time to spend on it to get it done in the time that I want to, or even just getting pulled into a little bit of a struggle of the difficulty in doing it at times can get overwhelming. I wouldn't say overwhelming, that's a bit strong of a word, but I am pushing my boundaries quite a bit with this. This is only my second sand mandala, and these things are not easy to do. If I was doing one very sort of abstract and freeform, it would be closer to easy. But the demand for precision, you could say, can almost take the fun away. And that's my challenge, is that tension between some part of me wanting to lean towards seeing it as not fun, and the part of me that's going to see it as fun. That tension that's there is something that I'm being aware of, and I'm observing, because I can shift when I find myself in the struggle, and then I become aware of the struggle. I can then, with being conscious of it, I can shift it. And it's a great exercise. So constantly while I'm doing this, I find myself in the struggle, I do something, some form of, I become aware of it, I become conscious of it, and I find some way to shift my mindset from, oh, this is a burden, or this is too difficult. I'm not. One thing that comes up quite a lot is, for me, I'm a perfectionist, and I'll get annoyed at the struggle of trying to get the detail that I want to achieve. You know, and for example, maybe a point doesn't come out as pointed as I want, and it depends on the moment. I usually end up obsessing over it enough to get it close enough to what I want, but there's always that tension between where I would like it to go and where it falls short. And then I remind myself that that's my focus on the falling short. How much of that is my state of mind and how much of it is actuality? I could always, we are always falling short of something beyond. No matter how good it is, if we were to obsess over it, we'd always be aware of the fact that we're falling short of something. So it's like, I guess my struggle in that respect is, how do I keep myself motivated to keep getting better, but without being bogged down by the awareness of falling short? And that's where I usually have a few different things that I say to myself, meditations and things, and they all change according to what I'm reading at that time or what I find valuable. I've done a lot of workshops and things on this type of thing, and I've always got a little bag full of tools that I can go and visit, pull a book out of somewhere, or a tape, or Raven will pull one out of somewhere. Like just recently, today, Raven was reading some of Rudolf Steiner's stuff. Someone who I really haven't delved into that much.
Oh, Michael just joined as you said that. That's hilarious.
Rudolf Steiner.
Let me show you the book, Mike. Hold on. Let's show you the book, Michael.
It's weird that we haven't read a lot of him because he's definitely really interesting.
Called
Gosh.
Esoteric Psychology. Oh, Physiology, pardon me. Esoteric Physiology. And he's the author is a student of Steiner's. Pretty, he's laughing. Yeah, pretty heady stuff. Pretty exciting. Yeah, so Steiner talked a lot about this tension between potential and manifestation. And this is exactly what Damon's talking about. Oh, yes. Oh, Michael's friends with the author.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Cool stuff. Well, yeah,
and
so...
if you want to share, Michael, just jot it down.
Yeah, so pipe in whenever you want. Anybody, if you want to. So, yes, it's really about this potential and the tension between the potential and the manifest, and how that actually comes to pass, comes and flows through. And I think one of the ways we talked about, David and I, is like really seeing the gift in a situation, even if it's one that's uncomfortable or inconvenient, or maybe even a little bit scary if you want to go to that place. But it's this potential, and making it manifest is just seeing the gift, being grateful. Really, gratitude is I think it's like the lube.
Yeah, and I know when I first was, I think it wasn't the first, but way back when I first came across people saying it's an important thing to every night write things that you're grateful for, show gratitude. And I got it on one level, that to appreciate something is that you're thankful, and that is a state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it was difficult I found if I was in a rut, it was easy if I was not in a rut and I was just saying, okay, I'm going to show that I'm grateful, because I felt that uplifting place within myself. But if I was in a rut emotionally and was doing this gratitude exercise to try and shift that, I could feel the tension between my desire to get into that place of gratitude and the rut that I was in. It was very interesting. It kind of brings me to like when I'm snow plowing or something. You know, there's always a tension between two things. But then later on, and including listening to this Rudolf Steiner little bit that you read, it's adding another little bit of understanding into this idea of how gratitude works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was using it and it worked,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of neat hearing a perspective or a way that someone sees how it works.
Yeah, how it
into
works,
a really
why it works.
complex
Yeah,
system of theirs. In
right.
this case, I find it fascinating. But back to the Sam Mandela, it's easy for people, and I wouldn't be surprised if most people are seeing this, and at best they're grokking the beauty of the work, and they're grokking the idea that, oh, how does he do all this and then sweep it away? But I don't know how many people on a really deep level really comprehend how this actually shifts energy or moves energy or turns energy, manifests, generates. It's
Mm-hmm.
a generator in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still learning myself. It's not like I'm there and someone else is not there. But I think that a lot of people seeing this may at least have voices in their head that kind of go, oh, you know, I wish that would do something, but, you know, it's nice that he intends it. You know, that's really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what a nice guy. But I just ask that people who have that voice in their head don't shake hands with that voice. That voice is something that you want to kind of slough off with a loofah and bring, you know, new skin to the surface that is saying yes, 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 I'll open myself to new possibilities. Another voice that I find within myself that cuts at things when I'm trying to grow and accept new things is, oh, you're so gullible. Oh, that's like, yeah, you'll accept anything if you think that's going to do something. You know, then everything will do something. You know, every new age cupcake out there saying something means that's going to work, and that's the voice that comes into my head. But just a point to make that there are some well-meaning new age cupcakes, and they probably taste really good, but they're also not very good, all the carbs and sugar and stuff. They sound sweet on the surface, but there's not a lot of depth to it. But there are a lot of systems, and I'm just touching on them. I'm not a master of anything, but I am working what works best for me, that which I've been doing for 30 years, which is in a lot of ways putting intention and awareness through art, through creativity, through creation, mostly in the form of tattoos, but intending and questioning as I go, how can I take this further? My art as a transformational tool, as a tool to cause change, to shift that which we feel is immovable. And quite often I find, at least in my case, and I think this would be with everyone, when you're carving new ground, it's the accidental wins that then you kind of stop and go, oh. Like in my case, intending healing while I would tattoo at one point, and then something happening where someone had an experience, and then I would collect data from them and my own experience of being the tattoo artist, and I get inspired. And then I would regroup, rethink, and reflect, and say, okay, what can I do? Like I used to, every time that I moved, which happened more often back then, and I had a new tattoo studio to build, I would then say, okay, what have I learned since my last tattoo studio building that I can incorporate into the new one? What new techniques, what new environment, what new atmosphere, which is how eventually we went from the city to a little village to, you know, from a village bed and breakfast tattoo to a more of a complete wilderness retreat bed and breakfast tattoo. Each step was to take the experience further into this healing potential. One of the things that never know, anyone let me know when we're doing live stuff and someone phones through, do you guys hear it, or do you get a blank or something? Anyways, so when I'm doing this and I'm allowing things to come to me with this energy of abundance, and I'm allowing those negative thoughts to come, but when they come, I don't entertain them. I catch them, hold them by the baby toe, shake them around a little bit, torture them a teeny bit, and then toss them into the flames of the heart, you know, to burn off any negativity and become a wonderful recycled little
transmutation.
Yeah. But the cool thing that comes through while I'm doing this, or that came through the other day, was just a thought about my hand poke tattooing that with deer bone that I've been planning for years and years and years and years. And pretty soon what I want to do is create a dwelling for this to happen out in the forest. And at first I was thinking, oh, you know, a little cabin of some sort. And the reason why I was thinking of a cabin was partly the ease of making it. But then I had these thoughts of how it would be so cool to have a little hobbit hole, you know, a little mound, earth ship type of dwelling that's under the ground, so that from walking towards it, if you came from the back area, you just see a slight hill in amongst all these different hills in amongst the trees. But if you went around the side, you have this little rounded door, and you go in and there's a wood stove, and so on. So you're in the ground. And I thought, well, that's pretty impractical. How the hell am I ever going to do that? And then I said, yeah, well, that voice that's saying you can't do it and how the hell are you going to do it, maybe a voice of reason, as far as for immediacy, but I just told myself that no, this is abundance. This energy of what I'm doing is for the energy of abundance. And I recognized that the reason why I wanted this little mound was because this mound style underground dwelling for doing the tattoos was, well, I believe that there's something more magical about it, if I can use that term properly, at least in the sense that it will, well, it's more part of nature, and that's an important aspect, but also it does appeal to the child, and the child within us is something that I believe we need to keep alive. And I don't mean as in being immature, being stupid, childlike in that sense, but the imagination and the wonder of a child. If we kill that off, and many people have, we're in a very desert-like quality of the mind, and the heart is closed off. And so anyway, so point being that I would love to create, and this was coming through with the abundance energy focus, I would love to create a little hobbit home of sorts in the ground, in the forest, for me to do my tattoos on occasion, obviously not every tattoo, and the hand poke ones, to take it, my thoughts with the hand poke bone tattoos is to take it to a deeper level, in healing and experience, in adventure. And I think to have that, someone walking through the forest, to have that building, it will open up more of the inner child in that person coming across it and coming in, wonderment, than just a little log house. Because it appeals to that imagination. And it seems like this isn't real. This isn't a storybook. Oh, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And to go in there right away by invoking or opening up the child in that person,
Mm-hmm.
I believe I have made it more possible for them to heal whatever it is that they're working on, emotional healing or whatever their purpose is for that tattoo. So the abundant energy told me not to cut that short and toss it out. Maybe it might have to happen later down the road to make it possible because it's a bigger project.
Mm-hmm.
But the abundant energy said, pay attention to why you want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, acknowledge the little thoughts and feelings that come with it. And I felt a really nice warm feeling in my heart when I thought about the dwelling. That's a little bit in the background. Our oldest girl, and she's got a little bit of a cough.
Yeah, I've been treating her homeopathically.
Yes, we've been working on it.
But, yeah.
But anyway, so that was a little bit of abundance that came through for me while I was working on this. Was in the form of some thoughts that I had blocks for in some of the plans, you might say. We have loads of plans for this place, and it can get overwhelming because everything takes time and money and effort. But for one of my biggest aspects of abundance that I'm getting from doing this is being aware that abundance comes in the form of positive thought, and that's the beginning of manifestation. You know, that creative thought is the first step of making something happen. I can only refer to our direct experiences. This is for everyone, but for us, or for me, my negative thoughts quite often come in the form of, oh, how can we possibly ever do that? That's like, it took us this long just to get a fence up and a barn half built, and here I am with crazy ideas of building little earth mound dwellings in the ground and stuff. Actually, I'd really like to have a whole little village of these little buildings, to tell you the honest truth.
With people living in them, I think.
Oh yeah, I think it, like,
It
why
may happen.
not just do crazy things that just make us happy,
Yeah, that would be fun.
that we can do?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep. So it's allowing that energy of abundance to flow in, really, and lift you up.
Yeah, and not to, don't have a doorman constricting the flow. Oh, you're not this, so that's not abundance, or whatever. Like, kind of open up the...
And also recognizing and appreciating every time something does manifest. Like this, it's not like a manifestation is like an end goal. We tend to think of it that way. It's a process. And manifesting happens all the time. But if we're not recognizing it, if we're not appreciating it, feeling grateful for it, then we miss it. It becomes less important in our consciousness. But if we pay attention to it, then that intention manifests. It's like a flow opens, like a steady flow.
Yeah. Yeah, part of my motivation for this was just a lot of stress in the world. People are feeling a lot of angst and stuff, because if one is to think things out, they could easily get overwhelmed, and tend to, by, oh, there's a lot of pollution in the world, oh, we're at the brink of this and brink of that, and whatever. Don't have to repeat all those things. Everyone knows what we're talking about. It's easy to get overwhelmed, and it's easy also, when people might be saying, oh, just think positively. It's easy to kind of go, how? And also why? Like, what is that achieving besides just feeling blissfully happy while everything's going down the drain, sort of thought. And I'm just contributing my little bit of work towards positive change that's realistic and not just puffy and frou-frou-ish, but actually put it to work in the area that I am good at, which is my art and my focus. But yeah, it's a contribution. In this case, the sriyantra was actually something that I don't know, I don't say I avoided it, but I wasn't attracted to it. I didn't see it as a very pretty shape or form, so therefore I just didn't really go much further into finding out what it was. I had done it a few times as tattoos, found it difficult and uninspiring because of the angular square shapes and stuff, and I like curly, swirly stuff. And I kind of avoided it. And then more recently, I was having a phone session with Cameron Day, who does creates a lot of meditations and well, he's a healer on many levels. Very creative guy, and he suggested that I make a sriyantra for my own focus, like for myself, just to work with. And I think it was Raven who said, well, why don't you do, as your second sand mandala, do the sriyantra in sand? And so I right away thought, oh, this is the coolest possible thing to do. And then after that, I will paint one as well, as a sort of more permanent meditational tool, because that is one of the ways that it's used is you would have it set up and just open eye meditate on it for a little bit and then close your eyes and allow the memory of the shape to stay in your head.
And that's just one technique.
Yeah, you can create your own technique.
Yeah.
Really. But that's the rough sense, and it's kind of cool in researching it after Cameron Day had suggested it, and therefore opening my mind a little more than I had before, because I had that immediate kind of bad taste in my mouth type of response of, oh yeah, I'm not really crazy about that thing. And then I open my mind up because I have a lot of respect for Cameron Day, so I say to myself, okay, well, why is I like Cameron Day, there's got to be something to this, so I will look further. I will look into this further. And that's what I did. And the first thoughts that I had were, oh, do I have to do that central triangular piece? Because I don't really, that's the part I don't like the most. But now what I'm wondering is, do I have a resistance to something that has to do with abundance? And that's why my lack of connection with this mandala formed. I don't know. It's kind of interesting thought, though.
But it's interesting that the mandala started speaking to you and telling you what different things that you were seeing in it. Like the very thing that you didn't really feel inspired to work on, actually you saw it as a portal, and you said it on video.
Mm-hmm. Well, I found a way to do the central piece in a manner that I liked more. I didn't like where the triangles, and I'd have to post an example or else no one will know what I'm talking about, but where the triangles were done in a way that I didn't like. So I found examples of ways that kind of looked just more trippy to me, more dimensions and layers and stuff. So
it's hard to get a really good shot in the light.
You have the
But,
light in the wrong place. There we go.
But yeah, so lots of little gifts came since you commenced this project. in what?
Oh, I wish I could remember them all. It was really kind of cool, like kind of uncanny. You could say little things, not like I won $1 million or something if you look at it on the financial level. But I had already put myself in the mindset that it's not necessarily something that's going to manifest as financial. And so far what I'm seeing is quite often the little forms of abundance, and probably that is always the case, if it is to eventually trickle down to a manifestation of something that has, the abundance has to do with money, that may happen. But the abundance really is something deeper or at the root. And the money part is just the way it manifested or didn't. But I found every form of, like, sometimes one time I did find $100 bill in my pocket that I didn't appear there. I had it, I just forgot and thought I spent it on other groceries or something, and that was kind of cool. But, oh yeah, I had to take this is probably a very boring story for you guys, but for me it was a big thing. I had to take my little snow plowing Ranger, I'll just call it an ATV because it's the easiest thing for people to understand. It's a side-by-side ATV that pushes a little snowplow. And something wasn't working right, and I was feeling kind of like it was the awareness of this hassle of having to get it into the store, and then the possibility of the people not communicating with me right. It triggered a whole bunch of stuff. I just didn't want to have to add this hassle onto my life at that moment. It would just been so much easier if the thing worked properly, and I didn't have to do that. And then on top of that, it was how am I going to bring this silly little snow plowing vehicle into the store? Never thought of it before, but it's like, oh great. I have to borrow a trailer that can handle the weight and the size of it, which is not a normal weight and size. And that became a real hassle. But it was just on the back of my mind all the time. When I had other things that were pressing, it was always like, oh yeah, and I've got this, and I've got that. But anyway, so the abundance came in the form of eventually didn't seem like it was abundance, but eventually we had to buy a trailer because there was nowhere that we could rent one except for $250 just for the day or the week or whatever. And then I didn't know how long it would take, and it could have been 2 weeks, so that would be $500. And so we finally just said, okay, we're buying one, bite the bullet. You know, the barn will have to wait a little bit longer again. Anyway, so Raven did the research for the trailer, and found a pretty damn good trailer. Didn't realize there could be such a range of quality of trailers, but Raven did narrow down 2 trailers at one place, and one was about $2,200 and one was about $3,000. Well, I went there, and the $3,000 trailer just seemed to me like a way better choice, and I had to and off for a while going, oh gosh, Raven's going to kill me if I spend the extra $800 on this other trailer, but it just seems better. Well, long story short, we ended up spending $3,000 on a trailer, but the trailer is so good. It's opened up a whole new other level to our freedom in our lives, moving things around that we didn't even realize. Not just that one vehicle, but piling wood on top of it, all kinds of things. It's just beautifully made. It's going to last for ages, years and years and years and years. It'll speed things up for us. So in a roundabout way, it seemed like a big hassle at first, and we had to spend money, but it turned out to be a form of abundance that we wouldn't have done if we didn't have to, but because we had to, and we ended up making the right choices, thank you to Raven, it became abundance, or a manifestation of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I remember all the things, but for a while, oh yeah, so I was bringing the trailer in to get a license for it. You have to get a little license plate to drive it on the road, or pull it on the road, and I went into the license bureau, or whatever you call it, and we were in there a while back, a few months ago, and I couldn't find my ownership for this silly little side-by-side UTV, and that was bugging me too, because it's like, oh gosh, I hate losing things, especially important pieces of paper, especially when you have a few of them missing, and then it's just that. It's like when you lose your wallet and you have to go through all that trouble of getting everything replaced. So it was that kind of feeling. And I'm like, great, I can't get a license. You know, I wanted to get a license to drive it on the road. But there I was back in there to get a license for the trailer. And the lady in there, while I was pulling stuff out of my wallet, and I said, oh, I don't have the ownership for the UTV, she goes, oh, what's that? And as I'm pulling things out, and I go, oh, that's not it, that's something, whatever. And she goes, well, hold on. And she goes, blah, blah, blah. That's it. And somehow I had it in my pocket, in my wallet all that time. Was certain I didn't have it. Certain somehow I lost it, or the guy didn't give it to me, or something. And that popped up. And it's just a piece of paper, but it would have been such a hassle to have gone through the replacing it when I don't have much time on my hands anyways.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a whole bunch of time opened up, a whole bunch of freedom.
So yeah, it's there. You're sitting right on
Yeah.
it, the abundance. But if you
Yeah.
don't recognize it, if you don't see it and
But also I
appreciate it.
think by tuning ourselves into accepting, into the frequency, I'll start by tuning into the frequency of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is to learn what abundance means.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had the closed off, opinionated view.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, abundance, blah, blah, blah. So of course it wasn't going to come to me. But once I opened myself to what abundance was, and took off all the little judgments, then therefore was able to tune myself in to that frequency better. Then took a tool, or a tool and an exercise to tune in to that
consciousness
abundance,
tool,
consciously tune in.
Yeah.
Things started to, like little grains of sand, trickling,
Mm-hmm.
falling this way and that, naturally. It's a complete natural process, but I started to tune into, granted, small forms, if you want to call them small forms of abundance, that, I don't know, would have just passed me by otherwise. But because I was tuned in to that frequency, and I was consciously making an effort to, whereas other thoughts would come in and I would consciously put them aside and retune, and then consciously put some negative thought aside and retune. So that consciousness, that conscious intent started to do something. And it could have been, quite often was, on a day where I was feeling shitty and I had a bunch of shit to do that I really wish I wasn't having to do because I wanted to be doing this. Mm-hmm. You know, because out here, a day could be used up having to do a bunch of errands with the car because of things being so far away. And then out of that, a bunch of neat forms of abundance would come through. So I tell you, this is a very, very powerful tool and exercise, and I definitely suggest people give it a go. Don't have to do sand. Just print one out and color it. But while you're coloring it, keep a meditational kind of awareness of what you're doing, and you could read up on it a little bit if you felt like it. You could play whatever, play some good music, play something that you like to listen to that makes you think about abundance. Just something to oil the cogs so that they roll smoother. Yeah. And don't have expectations, don't cut yourself short, because expectations are part of the lack of abundance sort of energy. I don't know what you'd call that. What's the opposite of abundance?
Poverty.
I guess poverty in general, right?
Or deficiency, I don't know, it could be different things.
Yeah, I guess because poverty doesn't necessarily mean poverty of money and things, right? It's poverty consciousness.
Yeah,
It's
poverty consciousness. That's the negative thinking. Yeah. And that's a program that's been
and it creeps up on all of us at times.
Sure. But that's why these tools are so powerful. Plus, they're ancient, so they've been used for a long time. There's
That's the thing, eh?
a morphogenic field associated with them, and the symbol speaks to you. You just color it. Color more than one. Color 10.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way of focusing the mind. If your mind is filled with stinking thinking, that's not going to serve you. So change channels. Find a way to transmute that energy. Maybe you need to do other things. Maybe you need to get on the treadmill and go for a run or something. Do something physical, or just grab your pencil, crayons, and pieces of paper and start coloring and start thinking and write affirmations in and get creative and playful and experiment with colors. Push your boundaries in these little coloring pages. And you're changing, you're shifting your consciousness as you do so. You're increasing your frequency as you do so. You're rising up, bringing more levity into the gravity. Levitate. Meditate. Anyhow, we're gonna break now, and and then we'll check in a little bit. So, see you soon. Bye.